Hello and welcome to another video for the One Land Ministry here at Peachtree Road. I am Reverend Mace Hall, and I have had the honor of talking to folks in our congregation who have dealt with a mental wellness challenge in their lives and how they have dealt with that and persevered. And today I get to talk to Jamie and Lena Jenkins. Jamie and Lena have been at Peachtree Road since 1999 and in ministry for 41 years. Jamie is the ordained piece of the ministry, but I think he would agree that Lena is every bit a partner in that ministry, and what they have been able to bring to the United Methodist Church over the last 41 years is incredible. They have 3 children and 2 grandchildren, and currently Jamie is serving here at Peachtree Road as the Minister of Visitation. And today I'm talking to y'all, and they're going to talk to us about their struggle as a family with depression. And they're not just going to talk about the struggle, but they're going to talk about how as a family, as individuals, and as a couple, they have learned the signs, the symptoms, how to deal with it, and show us how they have beautifully, through faith and love and grace, dealt with these challenges and are an example to all of us. So, Lena, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
So, you have dealt with depression. Can you start and talk to us about when this started for you and what were the symptoms?
Of course. My first experience with depression was when our youngest son was born. He's 39 years old now. I had no concept of what I was going through, but after he was born, I had a combination of what I would probably call postpartum depression and a reaction to steroids, prednisone in particular, which I was given, and began to decline within days of taking the steroid into what I call anxiety and sadness, which I had never experienced before, and which is really difficult if you've got a newborn baby and 2 almost teenagers to deal with. And that's where Jamie comes in. He was extremely supportive, but I battled through that first episode of depression without medication. I think the children helped me through in that I had to get up out of bed. I had to do certain things. I didn't have any choice. And but then I had 2 more episodes after that, one just within the last 2 years. It seems to be that they're about 20 years apart, so I'm hoping I won't be here for the next one, that I'll be gone on to glory or somewhere like that. But anyway, that's how it started.
So the first episode, how many years ago was that?
Almost 40 years ago.
Almost 40 years ago. So Jamie was a support, were you able to get support from your medical community?
I didn't actually seek help much I saw a doctor, a psychiatrist right off the bat, and they prescribed Xanax, I think, which actually just made me sleepy and drowsy. Mm-hmm. They didn't prescribe a long-lasting antidepressant, and so I immediately came off of the Xanax, that they gave me, and just took it a day at a time. Sometimes Jamie would come home and I would be sitting staring at the wall crying. I mean, and that's pretty much the way I dealt with it. I just took it a day at a time and battle through it a day at a time.
But the depression was such at that time, it came so suddenly. They treated her for a condition at the hospital with prednisone, which is a miracle drug. But within 3 days, she was having all kinds of symptoms. Called the doctor and told him what, and he said, oh, no, there's no way she could be. She's just read about it and she's imagining. Mm-hmm. That was a Wednesday. On a Saturday after that, I called him back and told him what was going on. And that afternoon at 2 o'clock, he had us an appointment with a psychiatrist. And he told us, stop the medicine immediately. And they told her at that point, she was in such a state that the doctor said all she's really able to do is she must decide to, personal hygiene, eat, whatever, but she's really in no condition to make other decisions. Mm-hmm. And with help from family, church friends, and everything, somehow we
managed to get
made
through
it through that year with a newborn baby.
Yeah. But, and it lasted about 8 months, maybe.
Close to a year.
Close to
better
a
part of a
year.
year.
I began to have a good day here or there, and then a couple of bad days, then a couple of good days, then a few bad days, until it just sort of wore itself out. And
Did you blame it on the pregnancy and the newborn and a third child, or did you?
no, not at all. I never thought of it as being that. I really blamed it on the prednisone because I'd had other children and not experienced it at all. So I think the prednisone, I do believe that, I've never been told this, but I do believe I was predisposed to depression in some way, and that when I take certain medications, they can bring about episodes. So,
I'm wondering if you have it, like, I come from a family of females that worry. I describe it as like a sport. You know, it's like as if you're going to get exercise. If you just worry
Right.
enough, you'll be healthier for it.
Right.
And so
Yes.
do you think, like, family members were predisposed to depressive episodes, or were you aware of anything like that?
my father had some issues, but not my mother. She was the easygoing, I felt like I needed to worry for my mother because she wasn't a worrier. But one of the issues that I have found with people that I've come in contact with that suffer from depression is that we're generally perfectionists, and we don't handle things not going well. And so I think that when you describe me as a perfectionist, I was perfectionist in the house. Didn't like children with dirty faces, wiping faces off, wiping things down, that sort of thing.
Manic in terms of cleanliness.
Yeah. So I can see, looking back at it, where I was probably predisposed to some form of mental illness, depression, or anxiety.
So you didn't seek professional counseling, though, other than seeing the psychiatrist. Y'all dealt with it as a family and a community.
Yeah.
We did.
And over a period of time, dealing with the absence of the prednisone, and she had the illness that it was supposedly treating, we did see a medical doctor for that for several months. She had a rare disease called ITP, immunothromboperpura, something like that, where your body treats your platelets as enemies and destroys them as they're made. But over a period of a year, that finally cleared up and okay, but with no medication or no mental health professional involved that first time. But it lasted the better part of a year.
It did.
And so, Jamie, were you serving the church then?
Right, I was.
And how was that? You had 3 kids and a wife that was not functioning fully.
Well, probably Lena could respond to that better than me, because there's certain things that were just expected, and but her mother came and helped. Her sister came and helped. Our church folks were helpful. One example, for instance, I remember Bernice Rainwater came to our house one day, and when I met her at the door, she said, "Where's your dirty laundry?" And I said, "What do you mean, where's my dirty laundry?" She said, "Where's your dirty laundry?" I said, "What do you want?" "I'm going to take it and do it for you." And so she just barged in and took our dirty laundry.
Right.
Now, that was just one isolated instance, but I think more than anything, people were understanding.
People were very understanding,
And,
not judgmental. That was one of my concerns with Jamie as a clergy person, and realizing that people quite often think clergy families are perfect, that there was going to be some judgment in that area. And a part of it was we'd been there a long time. These people knew us. They knew me. They knew I wasn't myself. And they were supportive, if not all, things still needed to be done. And I see now, looking back, that having things that I had to do made me get out of bed and go do those things, where the last 2 episodes of depression, I couldn't have made myself do. They were worse, and I couldn't have made myself do things that needed to be done.
Yeah. That first episode was very different from the other two. Very different.
Well, I think it's impressive that 40 years ago, y'all are totally breaking the stereotype of so many times it's just hush, hush, hush.
Right.
And I feel like now people have more normalized the conversation. And of course, I know from talking to Jamie how passionate y'all are about normalizing the conversation.
And that's really to Lena's credit.
Yeah.
That really is Lena's credit.
One of the things for me was that if I keep this a secret, it's like a dirty old secret. It's something to be, that I've done something wrong that I should be ashamed of. And I could never accept that. I mean, I could never accept the fact that this was some sort of punishment or something that I had done wrong, or it was a weakness or a character flaw or anything like that. I just could not accept that. It had to be something that was going on in my brain that I did not have control over and that I had to battle. And it was just like if somebody had to battle cancer or any other thing that they had to battle. That's the way I looked at it. So I felt free to tell anybody what was going on with me, and actually wrote an article for the Advocate shortly after
That was our conference newspaper at that time.
Newspaper after it ended, and got calls from so many people, Mace, about my wife, my mother, my sister, my family member suffers from depression, but we don't tell anybody, especially if it's the clergy person, because they're not sure what the bishop would do, not sure how it would be handled. So, that's just unique to me in some ways, that I was just like, no, I will not treat this as a dirty secret.
It's remarkable, really.
Well, that's Lena's personality, though. She's transparent.
Too honest.
There's no secrets. And, she's just open, and I tell people, what you see is what you get with Lena, wherever she is, and in this case, I think it was just a natural expression of her personality, but it is exceptional. I talked with somebody just yesterday, a parishioner here who had a family member that was struggling, and one of the issues there was that this family member was, not really wanting it to be known by others, because there's still that stigma. But with Lena, she said, this is who I am. Take it or leave it, and
I feel
it's
like
been helpful.
It's their problem. If they've got a feeling about, well, something must be wrong with you that this happened to you, then I just don't see it as my problem. I just think it must be your problem.
But your example to me is so freeing for the person that's mired in those self-doubts and what's wrong with me feelings, and all of a sudden it's like nothing's wrong with me. I've got an illness, I've got a cold, and I just need treatment.
That's right. And it should be treated that way. That's all it is.
I did ask Jamie one time, I think if you remember that conversation, I asked you, maybe it was after I wrote that article, did it embarrass you that now all of your clergy peers would know that, of course, most of them knew anyway, but...
I remember the second episode, which was a totally different circumstance, but in light of that, we had made the decision that she needed to be hospitalized. And I remember it vividly. I can see the picture of us right now sitting in the car at Peachtree Industrial Boulevard and 285 at the traffic light on our way to the hospital. And she said to me, "Sorry." She said, I'm so sorry. I said, "Sorry for what?" She said, "What are people going to think of you?" And I said, "My God, Lena, what are they going to... You're sick. We're going to the hospital. If you had a heart attack, or if you had cancer, you're going to the hospital." But that's the context of, where all this is. She was more concerned about what people are going to think of me than her health. That's idiocy, But anyway.
And the hospital people that work there are very kind and not judgmental, at least the ones I dealt with, and actually made friends there with people who I felt like that I could even support and tell them, I've been through this before, it's going to end, you just have to fight it and come back, get up every morning with them, I'll make it through this day. And but Jamie has always been supportive. Only in the very, very beginning of that first episode, we had both had tough times growing up from family struggles, So we felt like you just sort of had to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, just everybody just has to be strong and tough and whatever. And I think that first maybe month or two, I remember him saying to me one time, we were at a soccer game for our oldest son, and you could just tell there was no joy in anything. That was the main thing you are missing, is joy in anything. And he said, can you just be excited a little bit for Jason or something like that? And I said, I wish I could. I wish I could. But after that, he began to accept this is something she can't control. She can't snap her fingers and be out of it. It's not going to be that easy. So
that was the first episode. The second episode, how many years later was that?
20.
20 years.
Almost exactly 20 years.
Yeah.
And that one was not due to any medication. It was circumstances, actually. We had just moved out near the Methodist Center at Peachtree Corners, and I had loved where we lived off of Mount Perrin Road, over by Jackson Elementary School. Felt really comfortable there, wanted to stay, became obsessing over, I want to stay in this house, I don't want to move, I want to stay in this. Obsessing is another sign of people who can get into depression. And I began to obsess over wanting to stay in that house and not move out in the suburbs. And our son Jonas left to go to school. Our daughter Jennifer had decided that she was going to stay in California since she had graduated from college out there, and that was just too far away from Mama. And then our oldest son, who married a Japanese girl and lived in Japan, that was just the acknowledgement of, oh, my children have all left me, and after everything I've done for them, poor pitiful me. And that was actually how it started, was poor pitiful me. After everything I've done, I'm going to be left alone with my children living all over the world. And
got to follow Jamie to live where he needs to live.
Got to follow Jamie and
I
go
gotta
where
live
he
in
goes. And I'd actually wanted to go back to the local church, and this was a sign that we were not going back into the local church. But all of that was the circumstances. But what was going on inside of me was a poor, pitiful me feeling. And that I just began to obsess over that. And then the way it's happened with me, I just fall off in a dark hole. It's not like a gradual thing for me. It's the buildup was the obsessing over things weren't going the way I wanted them to go. And then I'm just gone.
It doesn't sound like poor pitiful me. To me, it sounds like loneliness and isolation and uncertainty.
Well, abandonment. Those were
Yeah.
those were the words I would use to describe the way I was feeling. I told Jamie, I said, we've moved out here. I had good friends where we lived, and I said, we've moved out here. The garage door goes up. Everybody goes into their house, and the garage door goes down, and you don't see anybody. And so Jamie was still going to work over at the Methodist Center every day, so I was alone every day. And we moved in November, and for some people, SAD, I don't know if you're familiar with seasonal affective disorder, that may have played a part in it too. It was November, it was winter time, so I couldn't even be out in my yard working where I would meet people. So that's when it happened. I just fell off.
And y'all knew it was a more dramatic episode.
It was
Definitely.
a darker, more anxiety, more physical a part of it too. The first episode, I was still able to do things. With this episode, I was weak, extremely weak, lost all appetite. If there could be a side benefit, you can lose lots of weight depressed. But I just it was just a darker version of what I'd experienced 20 years before.
And to the point that led us to talk to actually Woody Spackman, who was the chaplain at Emory, and she was hospitalized. But the hospitalization was good to a point. But, we're talking about caring people and understanding people, and most of the medical people were. But there was one particular physician, she was at what was called at that time Upper Gate at Emory. And they changed her medication one morning, sent her home that afternoon, And by dark, she was hallucinating and having horrible thoughts. And I called the doctor and explained what was happening. And the doctor said, oh, then she just needs another dose of the medication.
More medication.
I said, oh, I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah.
so. So the next day we went back and talked to Dr. Frank Brown, who was the head of the psychiatry department at Emory at that time. He recognized something, and the caring there, he admitted her to Wesley Woods. But I remember when we finished talking to him and he understood what was going on, as we were going to our car, I saw Dr. Brown walking across the campus himself, carrying the paperwork over to Wesley Woods so they could expedite it, and she could, and so she got immediate care. And that kind of attention, and then the care that she got at Wesley Woods over the next weeks, just...
Being hospitalized is not a bad thing. It gives the caregiver a break because that first time Jamie could go to work and do things, I was still able safely to be at home by myself. The second two episodes, I had to pretty much be right by his side all the time. The anxiety made me fearful of. I never planned suicide or anything like that, but people who say that they're extremely or severely depressed and suicidal thoughts don't come to their mind, they're not telling you the truth, I don't think, because I think you can't stop them. They just flit in and out. But I never, held on to any of them and thought I would do this. But as a result, I wanted to stay as close to Jamie or somebody with me all the time. And
in that regard, at that time I was at the conference office working directly under Bishop Davis. And because she required pretty constant attention, we'll be always indebted to him for him saying to me, you got work to do, but you got nothing more important to do.
So he allowed Jamie to spend the time, and I would go to the office with Jamie and I could just sit with the secretary all day long and
Or at times I
be
would,
sad.
if I would be out, had to make a call or something, Lena would go with me. But that was because Bishop Davis gave me the permission
Right,
to
he
say,
did.
Lena is top priority.
Right.
And as a
But
result
Jamie,
of that,
you
we
couldn't do
could...
your job if you were worried about her.
Oh, Lord, no.
No.
I couldn't if I wouldn't have. And but there's not everybody that would have that kind of understanding and allow you that latitude.
Right.
And it can be done in different ways. Maybe somebody else can take care of the work while you take care of the person who's in need. But at any rate, the point is that there was an understanding there. There was a compassion there, and not just a hey buddy, that's your problem, you got to deal with it, or let's don't talk about that because people won't understand.
Yeah, you're working for the bishop.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Image is so important.
But everybody there, all the other superintendents, the cabinet, people in the offices, all of them knew, and all of them cared and empathized, and I mean that kind of community support and understanding to whatever level they can understand is just it's priceless. It's
That's
just
why I think
invaluable.
it's valuable not to keep it a secret to yourself, because it's amazing how much support or hope other people can give you. If they know what you're going through, then if just the coming to church and somebody taking my hand and saying, I'm praying for you, oh my gosh, that it didn't lift the mood at all, but there would be like hope there, hope that I'm going to feel better one day, hope that this is going to end one day.
I remember one day, on that regard, we were at home, and Lena's on the couch, I'm sitting on the floor beside her, and I remember her telling me that she was praying, and she said, God, where are you? Where are you? And
Well, I heard a voice in my head that said, look at the hand holding you. And he said, there I am. And I was, yes, you're at all of these people who call me and tell me I'm praying for you. You're for this man who's sticking beside me closer than anything, who's taken those vows, for better or for worse. to heart and is keeping those vows. And it just, that's why I just say, don't keep it a secret. Don't just try to go through this right by yourself, because it's too hard. I mean, it's just too hard.
And it prevents others from being in the hands of God and, and the love of God that you need at that time. If they don't know, and if people know in their own way, even though sometimes they don't really understand how or what to say or do, but people do care, and that caring really, really matters.
I'm just curious, do y'all have any idea how many people, I mean, I bet there are just hundreds upon hundreds of people who have heard your story and you have it's resonated with them, whether them personally or with a family member, and I'm sure they've reached out to you and said, thank God you gave me the courage to own this. This is part of my story too.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know the numbers, but I know lots of people have come to us. We have given permission to anybody to tell our stories, to tell people to call us, to talk to us, and like I tell Jamie sometimes, my depression is different from somebody else's depression. I mean, they're all individualized, and my story might not be exactly yours, but I used to tell him when someone would come up and start talking to us, I said, they use the right words.
She knew the language.
I said, they are suffering from depression because they're using the right words. A pit, a black hole. They could describe so eloquently how they felt, and I would be like, oh yes, you're depressed. And my main goal is to just tell people to hang on. Generally, these episodes don't last forever, and to get help, to reach out to get help, and to find a supportive group. This One Lamb initiative is an amazing gift to this church and this community.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing gift to this church and this community. And find resources to help you. Medication may be what you need. One person needs therapy, may be what somebody else needs. I'm not sure how to diagnose anybody, but I know there are options out there.
I think one of the first things is for the person who may be experiencing depression, anxiety, or whatever, is to acknowledge it and to explore. Maybe it is this, maybe it is, but to recognize it, and the sooner you can recognize it. The third episode she had was very different again from the other one. She had some minor outpatient surgery, and when I went into recovery to get her, when I walked in the door, she said to me, honey, something's wrong, my head's all messed up. I thought, she's just recovering from the anesthesia, But what we later discovered, because within 12 hours, by noon the next day, she was in a dark hole. What we discovered was that they had administered prednisone, a steroid, as a part of the recovery process, which is apparently very normal.
Right.
She had not at that point entered into her medical records. But anyway, the fact that she recognized it right away, and as soon as, and you begin to respond immediately, if it's there's such a stigma with depression and mental illness that folks, I think, sometimes don't want to acknowledge it. They'll discount it, they'll explain it away. But if you have a question or a doubt or a wonder, act on it, I think.
So this third episode, the minute y'all knew there was the prednisone, you knew, like, this isn't anesthesia. She's going in a spiral.
Right.
She's spiraling downward. And so what did y'all do I'm assuming to address it as quickly as possible?
We called my doctor, and they started tweaking medicine right away, medications right away, and unfortunately, that didn't help. I ended up in a dark place for a very long time, extreme anxiety.
Another hospitalization.
Well, I'm not sure what I was going to say. Where I was going with that.
After a while in the hospital and being treated, And I think you have to be self-aware and open. And after a while, she said, she began to say, I just don't think I need to do this anymore. I just don't think I think. And so after, in a little while, we just made a decision that I was not sure was the right one, but needed to listen to her and say, okay, then let's don't do this anymore. And so we told the doctor we're going to check her out, we're going to take her home. And as it turned out, that was the right decision. I mean, it wasn't like the next day everything was okay, but she was beginning to sense that this wasn't working, something else. And I think that's just it, to be attuned to your own body, your own self, and to your relationships. And for people to care and understand, if I can backtrack to the second time when she had been hospitalized, she was having some treatments. And one day she said to Dr. Brown, who was, Dr. Brown, Dr. McDonald, who was here recently with William Cope Moyers, Dr. McDonald, she said to him, I just don't think I need to do this anymore. And he said, it's your call. She said, then I'm not going to. And so she got up, we left. At that point, that was a Friday. It was General Conference coming up in Pittsburgh, and I was supposed to go on Monday, and I decided not to go. He said, I think you need to go and take Lena. I think it'll be good for her. But I'm going to be in California next week. Here's my cell phone number. If you need me, call me. Well, doctors don't give you their cell phone number. We went to Pittsburgh. On Monday, we were walking down the hotel hallway to the dining room, and my phone rings. It's Dr. McDonald calling from California. How is Lena today? There's so many pieces of that there, but one, being alert and sensitive to, what the person is feeling, and respecting that, and just trying to make the best decision you can, and then to have other people, professionals or otherwise, that care for you, and they care for you.
One of the things we do now as a couple is we monitor my moods because all three have been described as chemical imbalances, whether they were started as a result of prednisone or just chemical imbalance that started. That I'm obviously predisposed to it, but we now, and other people that suffer from any kind of depression, whether it's a low level of ongoing depression or severe need to be hospitalized depression, is to monitor your moods and your feelings. What is this making me feel? Should I watch the news?
No. And the answer to that is no.
Should I watch the news? Should I? One of the things that we're trying to do a little bit better now is exercise, which is not going to hurt you. It's going to help. If anything, it's not going to hurt you. I'll probably never not be able to take medication. I don't have any problems with that at all. And that's what I tell people about. Take your medication. If it makes you feel better and do better, you take it. It's not a happy pill. It does not make you happy. It just keeps you on a level path.
My husband has cholesterol issues. He takes a statin pill every day of his life.
Right.
And he will for the rest of his life.
And what's the
not?
difference?
Yeah, what's
They're
the
maintenance
difference?
medications.
Right.
Yep.
If it keeps him from having a heart attack, I'm all over it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But anyway, I will take my medication and monitor my moods and what seems to be upsetting me, and what might bring me down, and try not to obsess over things that are not going your way. Try not to obsess over that. One of the things that we're talking about now is downsizing, and where we want to downsize. Well, where we want to downsize, Jamie says we can't afford.
We can get exactly what she wants. We just can't get it where she wants it.
Where I want it. I want to live in close to the church inside 285. And anyway, I realize that in myself, I can't let that just become something that I would obsess over.
Well, and just, an example of just the ongoing, at what you're just saying, of monitoring it. We just came back from a trip with a group from the church in mid-June. We had a wonderful trip with them.
Our daughter and son-in-law were with us.
Yeah, our daughter and son-in-law were with us. It was tiring, exhausting. We took a couple of days, stopped in Amsterdam, visited our grandson, who's at the university there, and then we came home. And Lena, the next day or two, said, I'm beginning to, she was feeling down. Mm-hmm. And it was just circumstantial. Mm-hmm. But to recognize that, we've been on this high, on this trip, and with the grandson and with our children, mm-hmm. and now, boom, we're back to being at the house with nobody but each other. Yeah. But just being mm-hmm. aware of that and sensitive to that, mm-hmm. Because she was beginning to,
I felt a little
down. And not to just let that go and say, mm-hmm. because it was real. Mm-hmm. And you got to treat it as real.
Sometimes you just need to talk something through with somebody. This is not bad.
It's a good advice for all of us. I mean, like to really acknowledge you wake up,
mm-hmm.
You got all these things, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever.
Right.
No, you really woke up feeling something that you didn't feel the day before.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And to have people that care for you and pray for you, that was one of the things in this episode even, and it wasn't severe like mm-hmm. the previous ones we're talking about. I mean, this was just but Lena said, I want you to let certain people to let them know so they'll pray for me. So I shot an email out to two groups of folks, and said, Lena's having a little downtime, pray, and boom, boom, boom. They began to respond and pray, and just Sunday, one of the people here that knew about it said to me, I understand everything's okay. I said, I think everything's okay. And they said, that's good because we prayed for y'all.
Mm-hmm. And that's a wonderful feeling to know that you're being prayed for. You know that, Mace. That gives you such hope.
Just that reminder that, no matter what's going on, no matter how upsetting it is, that there are people that truly love you.
And that's the God with us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the God with us, and the people and the faces and the hands and the voices.
That's the hand that's holding you.
That's right.
That's it.
That's it,
Yep.
Mace.
Yep. Thanks be to God.
Well, we are so thankful for all y'all have done here at Peachtree Road to raise awareness and understanding and compassion and grace around issues around depression and anxiety, and how a family loves each other through every feeling you're feeling, good, bad, indifferent. It's a real witness to all of us, and we're very, very thankful for what y'all have done for the church and what y'all have done for each other. It's a wonderful thing to see.
Well, and thank you and others in the One Lamb Initiative, and for Bill Britt have been willing to allow. And I say that seriously because there's a lot of preachers and a lot of churches that wouldn't touch this, and for allowing this to be a real help to more people than you'll ever know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Oh, thank you. It tickles me. Thank you.
Thank you.